Joining me today is a tech consultant and dedicated brand manager who empowers creators to thrive in their passions. He and I go way back to when I still had a 9-to-5 job and our height difference was exactly the same as it is now. I have immense admiration and respect for his extensive experience in the tech industry, his quick wit, and unwavering support throughout our long-standing friendship. Many of you may recognize him from various places on the interwebs, including my earlier videos, and I'm delighted to sit down and talk with him today. Please help me welcome Josh.
All you have to do is look at any of the posts online. It's like, well, the top things at CES. It's like be like the same 5 things every time. Oh, there's transparent TVs. There's the Rabbit AI, which was one of the things I saw getting reached out before CES. Like, hey, come cover our keynote. Come cover this. And it's like you can tell it's a really divisive product.
Sure. I don't even know what Rabbit AI is.
So again, my understanding of it, and from the press briefings I got, but it's kind of like a physical AI device.
Okay.
And the big argument is like, why can't this just be an app on my phone?
Right.
Why do I need to carry around another piece of equipment to do that? And they have their pitch for why that's valid. I didn't really read that much into it because AI is already like, that's cool. That's also scary.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like AI can do a lot of stuff, but I also feel like it's not to the point where I can trust it. You know, I couldn't be like, hey, AI, order me a pizza, have it here at 7:30. I want it to be pepperoni. It's like, I feel like if I did that, I still have to go check, like, did it hear me right? Is it ordering the right thing? Did it order from like 3 states away?
Right.
Something stupid.
And it's also hard to not just trust the AI, but the company behind the AI before like all these standardizations and protections are in place. And Congress has signed certain bills where it's just like, okay, we get a little bit of protection at least, whereas like right now it's just Wild West. Who knows what the heck they're doing with that, with our just all that stuff.
Did everybody forget about Terminator? Did everybody forget about,
it's like we all just pretend that movie didn't happen now?
We are the weakest link in the chain when they become sentient, and the thing is, everything's always driven by money. There's going to be people that are there they're going to want to do the right thing, and then there's also going to be people in the chain that are like, hey, if I can make my bank and get out, it's like, it'll never go that bad. It's like, well, that's how you get to that bad. Like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think it's that thing where it's progressing at a rate to where maybe the safeguards or the guardrails on it are not progressing at the same rate. And, the cliche term of like, this is the worst AI is ever going to be. Like, it's only going to get smarter and better and faster. And,
right. Yeah. Worse depending on how you look at it, worse or better.
It's like, I guess, like from a technological standpoint, this is as dumb as AI is ever going to be. It's only going to get smarter, faster.
Right, exactly.
Much like you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Smaller, shorter, pantsless.
It's like the opposite of the Daft Punk song. It's like weaker, slower.
Exactly. More tired. Oh, I just need to sleep now.
Oh, can you slip that cord, the cable around the little knob that's
Jesus,
little guy?
Which one? This one?
Yeah, just around there, so it's not tripping.
Should I just like tap this a bunch of times for audio?
ASMR test.
Have fun in editing, God.
Damn
I'll
it.
just keep moving around like this as I talk.
Please do not do that. Are you even in frame? Okay.
It doesn't no one
so freaking
no
tall.
one
I
wants
had
to
to make
see
sure
this.
that your head. It's just been shooting your mouth the whole time.
That'd be even worse. Oh God, that'd be bad.
We should probably just quickly reference, like, for viewers who don't know, like, how you and I know each other.
Yeah, why am I here?
Yeah, exactly.
Why should they care? First of all, you shouldn't care.
Well, you and I, definitely. You and I met, over like 10 years ago now?
Yeah, there's
Definitely
been a lot of that at this CES. Like, hey, how long have you known so-and-so? Oh, God, if I do the math.
Yeah,
so,
I was at Newegg.
Yeah, I was at Fractal Design.
Right.
And I remember, I think the first time I met you in person, it was you, Paul, me, I think one other person.
Yeah.
We went to, like, I think a Denny's for lunch. And your channel, when you started off, was, I mean, it's like it is now, crap. And
Facts.
I think you're like, hey, man, can I get some of those cases or something? I want to do a video.
And I was itching. I was really itching like
you're
this.
fiending for it, yeah. And,
why is Kyle peeing on the floor in a restaurant?
He's twitching a little bit over there. But you and Paul each kind of had, like, your side gig, right? Like,
sure.
Your channels were more, I think, like hobbyist level at that point. You're working full time at Newegg.
Right.
And I remember, I think one of the things I saw in one of your first videos was, oh my God, he did like a focus rack. You did the depth of field pull. I'm like, that's pretty cool. Because, you go back in the day and it's like people weren't doing Dimitri levels of
right.
shit for video. It was like,
Very basic.
very much like just run and gun and that type of shot.
Yeah.
And then so we started kind of working together on that front. And then we realized that we're both idiots and we both like have horrible senses of humor and stuff like that. So I think
Yeah,
we kind of
exactly.
we gelled over that, and then it became like, how can we get creative? And we started working together from there.
Right.
So
Definitely.
so then we worked together in I think the professional capacity with like content creation for Newegg and promoting fractal design.
For sure, dude. I feel like I'm always very grateful for you because, as an early creator, it's very difficult. Yeah, I shouldn't be blowing smoke up your ass. You don't deserve it. But it is very difficult as a young creator to get brands to trust you.
Yeah.
Because you're and rightfully so, because you don't really have a lot of street cred or like reputation that you've built up. It's kind of like one of those catch-22 things where it's like you need a big following in order to get the brand deals, but you sort of need the brand deals to help support you and your journey along the way to grow and to buy more resources and things like that. So you were, I think, one of the very first brands that kind of like took a chance on me and Paul, and we just, I think also, yeah, like our senses of humor really aligned, and I think our vision for how to market, if we are going to make an ad, let's make it not suck. Let's actually give a damn about it. Let's try to make it funny. At least, even if you're not going to buy the product, you're going to remember the ad. And oftentimes, the comments on my videos would be more about the advertisement that we did than the actual video, which we are both like, that's a huge win. And then we started to do like bigger projects. You would have like ideas, or we'd bounce ideas off of each other. You'd
Mainly
like,
punishing you in some physical form.
basically, it was basically like what's his name? Ricky Gervais, his friend, that Carl, he just like sends him to China and like makes him work in a sweatshop. Like I was basically your Carl. You're just Ricky Gervais sending me around the world.
Kind of put Kyle in the back of a tank.
I mean the tank video was insane. Like that, we did that with Jay, which was a lot of fun. Jay and I in the back of the tank while you were driving it around, trying to just like throw us off.
Oh man! And then like when you,
dude.
like, so we couldn't hear each other. And you can tell my voice is going. But like we couldn't hear each other. I have a headset on, and there's kind of like the safety operator right next to me.
Yeah.
You guys are up behind the turret of the tank. So I mean, like there's probably like 10, 15 feet and 15 tons of metal between us.
Yeah.
And we're filming it, and we're driving around, and it's like, okay, the thing about the Leopard 184 tank we have is that thing can stop. Like there's some videos online of like that thing barreling down at people, and they break it.
Ceramic brakes or something.
Yeah, exactly. They Drift King. And I remember they're like, okay, Kyle wants you to do like a power stop. I'm like, are you sure? Because you're literally strapped to it. And I'm like, are you sure? Price department, like, ooh, are you sure? And it's like, yeah. So then, like, okay. And I can't tell anything that's going on back there. So it's like, it's weird. It's kind of like the toy. Like, I back up the tank, like, and then it wasn't like full speed. But I'm like, okay, let's get a little speed. And I remember I stomped on the brakes. And like, when you're in the tank, it's just like, oh, I see the ground now. And when we go back and watch the footage, you go flying forward, your face bounces off the GoPro.
The literally slaps the GoPro.
Yeah.
You can hear like me hitting the acrylic case of it.
Yeah, and then the system, when it's done, is like all tweaked, like it's rocking, it won't sit straight.
Right. Yeah, dude, like that was fun. We did another similar thing where we got together with Austin and built a PC on a yacht.
That was going to be the first one. That was going to be like the basically Catalina wine mixer.
Right.
Yeah, and I remember thinking like, okay, guys, we're not going to fake it for YouTube, but like this is like a $3 million yacht. It's pretty posh. Like you might kind of have to act up that the waves are bad. Did you have to act at all in that one?
No, dude. That was worse than the tank.
Oh yeah.
That was way worse than the tank because like as you're going at full speed, those things can actually hustle. And once they start booging, like you're just going. It feels like someone's just literally like a god-sized being is like just doing this with the yacht. Like it's going straight up and down. And Austin almost like puked. I'm surprised he didn't. He made it through, but he was just getting really nauseous.
Remember that?
He didn't have the wrist strap. He was like, I don't need the wrist straps. Oh, too cool for the wrist strap. That's what happens, dude.
Yeah.
And then it was actually getting really problematic because the power supply was just like going into the ceiling of this $3 million yacht.
So
we're like,
I'm sitting
we
up there.
need to slow down, otherwise we're gonna have to. We're gonna have to pay some money.
Yeah, so I'm sitting up, kind of up and behind, because you're kind of down in whatever they call that.
Yeah.
The cabin area, and like my whole shtick is, I'm the asshole, and I'm sitting up there drinking like champagne or whatever. Like, come on, get this
Just
put
living it
together.
up, yeah.
And I'm looking through the window, and I see like the power supply go up and go bam, it gets to see it. And then the worst thing is I see you guys like, oh, and I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, dude.
Like, okay, what's the damage deposit on this thing?
Yeah, right.
And I think Austin ended up bleeding, right? Because like, did the power supply or
that's right.
something hit him?
That's right.
I look down there, you're sweating and looking like not good.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
That
and
was
it's
rough.
like, okay, we need to slow down. And it's like, okay, we're going slow to where you could actually do some stuff.
Yeah.
And then like our captain was really chill. He's like, this is cool, but it's going to take us like 6 hours to get to Catalina if we
That's
go
right.
at this speed.
Yeah, dude.
Do you remember we hit a shark on the way into Catalina?
Oh God, I forgot about that.
Yeah, because like they slow down. We're like, what's that? And like, we might have hit something. Like, we're in the ocean. What do we hit? He's like, I think we hit a shark. I'm like, okay.
Damn, dude. We should have put the GoPro underwater.
Yeah. Yeah, then we would have got canceled for that.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
Oh,
it's
man.
like, so I mean, I think that was the thing, like creatively, there was a lot of collaboration. You know, there'd be like the app video at Newegg in the bathroom.
yeah.
There was like, I remember, I think I called you like, dude, I got this idea.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, you know, I'm selling metal boxes at this point. Like they're great Scandinavian minimalistic design cases, but you know, how do you make that sexy? And then we came out with an app, and I'm like, well, the only thing more boring than computer cases is an app about computer
Yeah.
cases.
And it was like the main thing was just like you could just see like the case,
Yeah,
like
it's
3D
got-
rendering that you could like
Yeah,
look
you can basically
360
spin
and
around,
stuff.
zoom in.
Sure.
And I'm like, I'm like, I got it. And then I kick it to you, and you must have been in the lunchroom or the cafeteria or whatever with Paul, because I see like, I think Paul tweets like, well, you know, I hear Josh on the phone with Kyle, and Kyle says something about the urinal video. I'm kind of concerned, you know, and it's like just based on that
That's
term.
a good Paul, pretty good Paul impression.
Yeah, it'd be better if my voice was now.
Yeah.
And it's like Paul was always so cool too. He's like,
Yeah.
okay, like he's
Yeah.
like, I'll try.
But Paul gets down.
Yeah.
Paul gets down way more than people realize. Like,
Oh, yeah.
like viewers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people who know him, like, yeah, Paul's super down, but he's just so like stoic.
Well, and like Paul's timing, like if you want to talk about like comedic
Oh, yeah,
timing
for sure.
and everything, is
He's
just
got it.
it's always been solid. And I think
Definitely.
there's definitely times where, you know, I've worked with a number of creators, and time to blow smoke up your ass, where there's sometimes where, not that I'm the Scorsese of it, but like you kind of need to lead the charge, and there's other times where it's like you can riff, like if
Yeah.
we're playing instruments, it's like
Definitely.
you can start, I can come in,
Right.
back out,
Like
and
a
whatever.
jazz band. It kind of just like flows.
Yeah, and it flows, and it's like that's always helpful because nobody has all the perfect ideas, but a lot of times it's like, well, what if we do this? Oh, okay, cool. Oh, dude, but like, what if we had? Oh, dude, that'd be awesome. Okay, and then we can do this off of that,
Exactly.
and
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
then the excitement's there because you. But now you just want to create it to create it. I mean, yeah, my job is to do this to help brand awareness and sell products, but the creative process becomes so fun because you're like, no one else is doing this.
Yeah.
Like this will provide value to the audience because it's going to be entertaining. And
Exactly.
the sad reality is it's very hard to do that content. And I've had people like, you know, how come people don't do pre-rolls and stuff like that anymore? It's like, it's a lot of work. And it's like, it's very difficult to come up with something new, creative, engaging. And, you know, admittedly, like I've dealt with brands where like, oh, we want to, you know, run pre-rolls with somebody and we want to have a new one every single month. It's like, until you have to come up with a pre-roll. Like
Right.
when you know the creator reaches back out to them like, okay, hey, so what do you want to do for February? What product do you want to send? What do you want, you know, the tone to be? And then it gets to March and like, just rerun February.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it gets hard to stay on top of that.
It is. I mean, it's especially with like just YouTube and social media exploding, and there's like so many creators now. A lot of great creators, but everyone's kind of upping their game, and so it's gotten increasingly difficult to come up with fresh, original ideas that are still, you know, getting the message across in just like a really clever and imaginative way. Actually, that leads me to the next thing. Like, do you want to kind of give a quick rundown of like what you're doing now?
I'm being awesome on a daily basis,
Okay.
unless you ask my kids. In
Thank
which
you for your
case
time.
I'm not. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so basically, I guess some timelines because people always ask me like, no, I'm no longer with Fractal Design. Parted ways, I think, at the end of 2020. It was kind of a combination of a bunch of different things, but part of it is, you know, like I think personally, I think it was like they're moving towards their IPO, and like they wanted to have all senior management in Sweden, which I understand from like, you know, a organizational standpoint. And from, you know, when I started, I was always really open with them, like, you know, I'm not going to move out of the country, you know, family's here, support network, all that stuff. And they were always really receptive to that. You know, I'd worked remote the entire time I was there. And it was kind of like one of those things like, okay, if that's your line in the sand, if you need to do that for what you're doing, I get that. That doesn't work for me. So, we parted ways. And then, like most people, I'm like, what do I want to do? What am I good at? Because I think anybody, like, you can identify that stuff in other people easier than you can identify it in yourself sometimes. And so, I did some consulting. I still do a lot of brand consulting with brands. It's always under NDA. I think, it's just easier that way, because that way it's like, oh, who do you work with? Can't tell you.
Yeah,
it's like, no, I'm not doing anything like with NASA. It's like, it's all in industry, but it's like that way it just kind of shuts down that conversation. So yeah, I do quite a bit of consulting. I also, oddly enough, work with some YouTubers, some talented ones, and you. And and it's like a lot of that was also kind of like, brand management in a way, because if I'm going to be blunt, having been on multiple sides of this industry, so if we go back through my entire pedigree, I started, back in the early 2000s as a system integrator, and I ran my own boutique system building company. And then, moved over to Fractal. I've done like written reviews for publications back in the day. I've worked on the brand side. I've worked kind of like on the creator content side. When I first got into like, working at Fractal, I wanted to do social media, but like we didn't have a budget. We didn't have anybody. So it's like I had to watch YouTube videos on how to use a camera. And then I film my own stuff. And then I'm like, oh, fixing in post sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, so then when I'd start working with you guys, I'd focus on trying to get like the one-shot take. Like if you're coming in to do a CES interview, because I'm like, I want it to be as easy for you in editing as possible so that you want to work with me again. But also B, it's like, well, if you know that our shoot went smooth and you can get that edited in an hour, my video's probably going up before the other guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Comes a race.
So anyway, through that lens, I feel like I'm not uniquely positioned, but I think it's one of my strengths that like, if you're looking to work with a brand, it's like, okay, Kyle, as a former brand guy, I understand these are some of my pain points.
Yeah.
Not all, but a lot of YouTubers suck at communication.
I was just going to ask, like, what's one of the biggest challenges working with creators behind the scenes? And I figured communication would be one of them.
Communication is
because I know myself. I know other creators that won't come out, but like we're terrible. We're pretty terrible.
Yeah, and it's not all, but it is a not insignificant portion of the ones I've dealt with over years of doing this. Right. And if I look at it, I think, and I might be wrong, but I think a lot of times, obviously, the creator's focused on the content, which makes sense, right? The thing is, what maybe they don't understand or isn't as big of a factor to them is you're working with a brand that maybe either sent you product, if it's like a launch embargo, maybe they're paying you to do something. Either way, they've given you a chunk of whatever. Yeah. And in your mind, it might be like, oh, I need to crank down this video and get it done for next Tuesday. On their end, they've reached out to you 3 times for an update, haven't heard anything. They're going into a Friday meeting, and they have to tell their boss, CEO, whatever, like, so where's Kyle at? Like, he hasn't responded to my last 3 emails. I have no idea if we're still good for Tuesday or not.
Yeah, right.
And you're sitting there thinking, like, no, I'm busting this out. I'm going to get it done. And kind of the disparity between those two things is like, this guy's starting to freak out now. Like, when you were talking about earlier, like, brands giving you a chance, and this guy's thinking, like, I give this guy a chance. I'm like, is he screwing me?
Yeah, exactly.
Did he dip?
Yeah.
Does he not feel his creative voice today, and he's taking a mental health day or whatever?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to downplay that, but it's like, that's because when you don't hear anything, your mind starts to go to those places.
Exactly. So you got to give them a response before they just invent one themselves, and it's usually not going to be good.
Yeah.
And I think there is a disconnect between a lot of creators, because a lot of creators have never had like an actual job, or at least like a corporate 9-to-5 type of, where you do meetings and shit like that. So it's like they don't really realize what's like how important it is to just kind of have a frequent back and forth, and that things can change and turn around and explode in a couple days if you don't like take care of something. If you don't just like give them a reply, like, we're good.
Because now we're like, we need a contingency plan.
Exactly.
Because are we going into launch day with nothing?
Yeah, for sure. I used to hate like when reps would like text me or like ask for my phone number, and I still do with many of them. But the ones that I've like gotten to know over the years, where it's like, okay, you're cool. It's actually kind of just way nicer for me personally to just like text and be like, we're all good, like, because it's just to like, I don't know,
I'm still alive,
your email
bro.
app. I don't want to open up Gmail or whatever. I want you in the same place where I've got my girlfriend and my family and everybody else, where I can just like boom boom boom.
Kyle, I think you sent that picture of me by accident. You want to take that back?
Dude. I thank God I've never done that. Thank God. I have sent a text to my mom that was meant for my girlfriend.
Oh.
And it was like a long text.
Oh.
And it was like when we were first started dating. It was so cringy.
Was it super flowery?
It was super cringy. It was very flowery. And I was like,
the sun rises and sets.
and my mom was like, I didn't even realize that I had done it. My mom had to reply and was like, I think you meant this for someone else. I didn't read it. I'm like, sure you didn't read it, Mom.
You got that 10 minutes
sure
ago.
You didn't read it. But thank God it wasn't anything like worse. It was like that being lovey and cringy was the worst.
Yeah, it wasn't like the Kyle's lonely.
Yeah. I'm worried about you, son.
I don't know if that's legal in the state of California, but
Thank you so much to MSI for making these CES 2024 talks possible. So MSI unleashed some killer tech at their booth, but one thing that totally stole the show, literally towering over everything, was the Mag Maestro 700L PZ. This beast of a dual-chamber chassis sports EATX and MSI's Project Zero motherboards. You know, the ones with the sleek cable action going on at the back for that clean look. But hold up, it gets even cooler. The case is a single piece of CNC'd aluminum, meaning zero panel gaps. Add in that one-piece glass panel wrapping around, and you've got yourself a stunner. Ready for some extreme water cooling too? 360mm radiators, kind of extreme. What? This unique bad boy, the Meg Maestro 700L PZ, is hitting stores in the next month or two with an MSRP of $379.99. Now, if that's a bit too rich for your blood, check out the Mag Pano. This one's got a more budget-friendly price tag, coming in ATX and micro ATX sizes. US market gets 4 pre-installed fans, or you can choose a fanless version for the international crew. It's available in black or white, and that wraparound glass panel gives you the ultimate wide-angle views. The case features solid cable management behind the motherboard with plenty of room, and these cool hinged cable covers to make stubborn side panels a thing of the past. With so many Project Zero builds on display, it's no surprise that MSI is also flaunting their line of clutter-free boards, featuring the B650 chipset for AMD's Ryzen 7000 series, and Z790 and B760 chipsets for Intel's 12th, 13th, and 14th gen CPUs. Back Connect design for effortless cable vibes, robust power delivery, and extended M.2 SSD heatsinks, they've got it all. Not to mention 20 gigabits per second USB, Wi-Fi 7, and 2.5 gigabit LAN for that extra sauce. Available now, so get them while they're hot. Hats off to MSI for making these CES 2024 interviews go down. Scope out their latest gear with the links in the video description. Thanks a million to Thermaltake for backing my CES 2024 chats. Now about those fans. Thermaltake's kicking it up a notch. Forget the old ones. These new Tough Fan EX and Suave Fan EX models are on another level. Why? They've got magnets that let you link them up, waving goodbye to that cable chaos. Coming in 120 and 140mm options, these fans only need one cable to power up to 3 fans at once, making PC building a breeze. Need to clean, mod, or swap the blades? Easy peasy. Plus, all the fans include some lube so your little propeller doesn't dry out. Thermaltake's not just stopping at fans, no. They're diving into the racing sim world with the GR500 cockpit. It's got it all. Adjustable fiberglass bucket seat, pedal mount plate, and a sturdy frame that's pre-drilled for all major brands like Thrustmaster, Logitech, and Fanatec. And hey, if you're into that triple monitor setup, they've got a stand for it. Picture this. 3 of Thermaltake's 32-inch curved monitors with all the bells and whistles. Quad HD resolution, 170Hz refresh rate, 1 millisecond response time, and sleek bezels for an immersive edge-to-edge view. Want the deets on all of Thermaltake's latest tech? Hit up the link in the description. But yeah, you were saying though.
Yeah, so
communication is a rough one.
It's communication. It's kind of like, I think, two sides not fully understanding each other because they're not in each other's world. So much the same as like, content creators, maybe, again, not all, but a majority or large amount. Might not be the best on communication because they're focused on getting that video out, live and die by the video, maintain the content schedule, that sort of thing. On the brand side, I feel like a lot of times they don't okay, if I back this up a second, I find a lot of creators I've dealt with, when a brand might ask for a certain thing or be like, dude, what the F? Like, they want me to do all this and do all that. It's like, I think a lot of times, like, brands in general are not content creation houses. They don't realize what they're asking is going to be an extra 6 hours of work.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like they don't realize that's a reshoot. They don't realize that's not just an ADR drop.
So it goes both ways. When I was talking about the disconnect of creators don't understand what it's like to be a business. Businesses have no idea what it's like to be a single dude or just a small team.
Yeah, and they don't realize that they're like, hey man, could you quick do this? Like, oh, could I quick just bone my whole Saturday, redo this thing?
Oh, it's a 10-minute long video. Should take you roughly 10 minutes to make, right?
Exactly, right? And it's like, I don't think either side of that comes out of malice. It's just maybe a lack of understanding or it's not what you do every day. So I guess when I enter the equation, first of all, everyone's like, oh, Christ, Josh has entered the chat. This sucks.
Yeah.
But I try to streamline both sides of that, because it's like I might go to the brand and be like, okay, I know you're asking for this, but like that's an entire reshoot. That's something that should have been brought up when we were nailing down the original.
There should be a TV show where like a CEO of a tech company and like a YouTuber swap places. You know, it's like Jensen's like taking selfies and like I'm running NVIDIA.
Yeah. Oh God. Tell me when you do that so I can look at my stock options. But yeah, and I think that's the thing where like I'll try to explain and articulate like, okay, this thing you're asking for is going to be a lot of work. And then they might be like, well, how come this costs so much? Like, okay, maybe you don't realize this is going to take this long. Right. This is going to take extra effort, blah, blah, blah. But also, I think there's times where they want to achieve a certain goal, a certain talking point, whatever. And they may drill it down to the point of like, it looks like a list of demands. And it's, you know, oh, must have the product name and the title. And I'll be like, okay, I see what you're trying to do here. But, this is a monitor, so it's an alphabet soup of 85 just random character. It looks like you put a personalized license plate at the end of the name.
Exactly.
And it's like, viewers are going to see that and be like, oh, sponsored video,
ad.
I'm checking out.
Exactly.
And it's like, this is going to hurt the performance of your video.
Right.
And it's like, I see you're probably trying to get SEO, and you think that people are going to be searching for it. Not to knock you, most people can't remember the 17-digit model name, and that's not what they're searching for. They're going to be searching for best 27-inch OLED.
Right. People aren't really even searching all that much anymore.
Yeah.
People are just like getting fed whatever the algorithm feeds them.
Which YouTube has been like dog shit lately.
It really has.
Like my main page, I'm like, what? I watched one of those videos 7 weeks ago. Stop sending me versions of that
just
video.
thinks that you're obsessed with it. But I mean, it's like, even though the algorithm sucks in so many ways, like if anyone's going to know how to manipulate it or get it to work in its favor, it's the creator, not the brand. It's the creator who's been doing it for 5-10 years or whatever that has done all the research, has posted 1,000+ videos and knows what
you
kind
have
of
a
works
vested
and
interest.
what doesn't. Exactly.
And I think that when I, again, talking to brands and talking to creators, like, hey, we want to be in one of your good videos. Okay, we'll make sure not to put you in one of the shit ones we had planned for this month.
I think we just have a toggle switch. Like, this is going to be a shit video.
I'll put that in the shit pile.
This is a viral switch.
On their end, they're also like, dude, I'm putting my ass on the line because I just gave you either launch product that only a select number of people in the country are getting, or I'm putting money behind this, comes out of my budget. Like, if you shit the bed on this video, I have to answer for that internally. So it's like, I get where they're coming from. But it's also, you don't hire a guy or girl to build a deck for you and then stand behind them like, why using that wood? Why using those nails? How come you didn't cut it here? It's like, well, you hired me to do a job. I'm going to try and do it right. And you have the vested interest of like, aside from, I want to work with this brand again, I want them to be happy, and I want them to feel like they got their money's worth or their time's worth. It's also like, it hurts me if this video does badly. If the algorithm sees this video tank, that's going to hurt me long term. So it's like, we're always trying to produce the best possible performing thing, because you also want the audience to be happy and see an entertaining video. And I think that everybody kind of has their safeguards up. You're like, oh, don't be trying to kill my creative voice. Don't tell me what to say. I'm not going to say stuff. It's like, no one's trying to get you to do that. On the brand side, it's like, oh, don't just throw my video away. Don't just try and crank this out. It's like, well, no, we're not trying to do that either. And again, trying to articulate why it's like, okay, what's your goal? What do you want to do? Is this awareness? Is this conversion? Is whatever? It's like, we'll come back with a solution that'll get you there. It might not look like this line item you sent me, but there's reasons why we don't want to do A, D, and F. It's because it's not going to have the outcome that you want to have.
I feel like it's almost like when you there's like two types of brands that I work with, like the ones that have like this perfect plan and they've designed it and it's like their baby and they're like, I know exactly, I have the perfect vision for how I want this to go, and like some parts of it may work and be okay, and other parts I'm like, I'll tell you why this isn't going to work, why this isn't going to work, and then hopefully you can work that out with them and they're cool with it and they understand, they're a bit flexible. They should be. Why work with a creator at all if you're not going to
just hire some creative freedom production company and put it up on your channel.
Exactly. And then there's the other type of brand who it's kind of like their first rodeo, or they're like, they have no idea what they want. It's almost like when you hire a graphic designer, you're like, just make it pop.
Yeah, and they're like, dude.
Yeah, that tells me nothing.
Yeah.
And so they don't know what they want, but they'll know what they don't want.
Yeah,
if you give it to them, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
It's like, well, dude, you didn't give me anything to work with, so I just made what you paid me to do. It's like, just use my own brain. you can't have me do a bunch of revisions when you didn't say any of that of what you wanted up front. So it's like there's challenges with each person you work with or each brand you work with, and then there's also like the size of the company, right?
Yeah.
Working with a really small brand versus a massive one. There's pros and cons to that too.
Where it's going good until, oh God, the good idea fairy showed up. Hey, it'd be cool if, stop. We should have outlined
someone's
this ahead
boss
of
or someone's
time.
boss's boss got involved in this major campaign at the last minute and like had all these changes, need to put their feather in their
and
hat.
you can almost tell the person coming to you is like, yeah, so
yeah, right. Like when a guy he's like, yes, my wife won't let me go on the bachelor party.
Yeah. Guys, I guess I'm not really feeling it. You're really okay.
But the wife's got a gun to his head right behind. She's like, all right.
And I think that, with that, there's also like, it can depend on people's moods, right?
Yeah.
To your point, there'll be some days where it's like, man, they gave us zero direction. How am I supposed to know what to do? Hey, Kyle, they have 3 more points. What the hell are they doing trying to tell me how to do my job? Like, okay, Kyle, there's got to be somewhere in the middle, And it's like, again, a lot of it's take a step back, look at it. I think a lot of people, they see things as like these absolutes. And I tend to view it more in shades of gray of like, I'll take that as a suggestion. And then if I have a question, I'll ask it because, as you know, my mantra, I'm always big on managed expectations. It's like if something seems vague, I'm going to call it out. I'm going to be like, okay, what are you hoping to get out of this? And it's like, oh, we want to do this and see 5x in sales. That's not likely. That's not realistic. That's not going to happen off of one ad. And on the same thing on the creator side, like, dude, I want to make, do this really cool thing, and I think it'd be great for this brand. It's like that brand's going to like, oh, please, can we sponsor your vacation? Can we pay you to go to Barbados, film for 6 days, and put our logo up in the corner once towards the end of it? It's like, again, there's give and take on both sides, and the best ones are where it's like we can organically get the point across. Because I assume you're kind of in a difficult spot. Like, can I genuinely like anything anymore? Or the second I like something, people are like, oh, he got paid to do it. It's like, well, a lot of times those two things kind of come out of each other. It's like, I like this product. I used it. And they're like, hey, that's awesome. We saw you liked our product.
Exactly,
We'd like to do something with you. Because normally a brand is going to want to engage with an influencer, key opinion leader, creator, whatever. They're going to want to integrate with somebody that actually likes their product. I mean, it makes more sense. It's more organic, your reaction to it.
Definitely.
Here's one thing I think that the audience or most people in general don't realize is, at least most of the creators I've dealt with, turn down more money than they make. There's more deals that get turned down that never see the light of day.
That is very true.
I mean,
very true.
if you go back a year and a half, 2 years ago, like, dude, you could have been buying an R8 every other month with crypto money if you wanted to do crypto.
No kidding.
And it's like, you don't do videos on today's video is not sponsored by so and so. It's like, and there's a lot of due diligence on the back end. Like, okay, is this a pump and dump? Is this some came out of left field? They've got VC backing and they're going through their burn rate. Is this going to exist in a year?
Yeah,
I know, like you specifically are very, I guess, selective about anything that goes in the body, like nutrient supplements, stuff like that. Because it's like, hey, I don't want to be responsible for my audience's health. Like.
For sure.
That might be someone's like, I don't want to find out in 5 years, oh, there's some random chemical in there and some forever plastic.
Right, exactly.
And so it's like, it's easier to talk about a CD key or to talk about a hard drive than it is for this other thing. But sometimes these other things have very, very big paydays on them.
Exactly.
And, you can look in the mirror every day and be like, I would never do that. At some point, someone's going to be like, okay, $10 million, would you go do this? It's like, okay, I would at least think about it longer. And that's a decision that each and every person has to make on their own. And if you can live with it and you're being open and honest about it, and that's the thing, like, FTC disclosures and stuff. There's some guys out there playing very fast and loose with that.
That is very true. Yeah.
And I think
this is clearly a sponsored post, but there's just like no hashtag ad. There's no disclaimer. It's like,
and to me, it's like, okay, I get that years ago when it's like the second any like Linus would run a Dollar Shave. Linus, you shill. And it's like, I think people understand now. It's like these channels can't exist for free. AdSense does not really pay that well.
Exactly.
And it's like most creators are using this money. It's not let me go buy my Lambo. It's like let me put this back into camera equipment, hiring people, paying editors, all this stuff so I can still bring more content. Or this sponsored video is paying for the cool video I want to try that I can't get sponsored.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that now it's like it's expected that you're going to run pre-rolls. So it's like, why are you trying to kind of hide it? Like that makes it even more like, dude, what do you? And I think some of it's like lack of education because some people don't know what's going on, but it's also like man, you're playing fast and loose, and the FTC's talking about they want to start making examples of people. Like, now is not the time.
Yeah, you were
to do that.
digging down that rabbit hole about like they're making some changes and stuff, and like I guess it's like if some creator doesn't disclaim that they are running an ad or something, I think you said FTC will first attack the brand that was associated, but then the brand will come after the creator, or how does it work?
So, not legal advice.
Yeah, right.
I've done some research into it, and because it's something that's not well understood by both creators, brands, honestly, the FTC, because like they're saying, like, we're trying to regulate something where it's different on every platform. Like putting the paid promotion thing up on YouTube, FTC doesn't care. That doesn't count, because they're like, there's no conventional way of doing it. And like, there's been an FTC lawyer that comes out and flat out says, like, on TikTok, if you put it in the comment section, that doesn't matter. Nobody reads that. The FTC does not see that as you even trying to call it out. So the way that, if you ask the FTC, their mentality is gonna be like, well, if you have to ask, just call it out. You should always call it out. Right. And you'll press them on it, and they'll kind of keep coming back with like, well, maybe, but if you're in doubt, just call it out.
Yeah,
and it's like
it even rhymes.
Yeah,
they have a nice
exactly.
little jingle to it.
and they're kind of laying the groundwork when they're like, we have a 50-page FAQ. Like, you can tell they're very much like, ignorance at this point is not going to be a defense.
Sure.
So my understanding of it, again, not legal advice, is the FTC cannot fine you, but the FTC will sue you.
Okay.
So
that
it's like
worse.
Yes, I mean, like, they have FTC investigators, and generally, again, this not legal advice, but this was from a webinar I saw with one of the FTC lawyers, was the way they're going to view it is brand A comes in and hires Kyle, probably because they have poor decision making, but they decide to hire you anyway, low standards. Yeah. Like, you're kind of deemed as their employee at that point. Okay. So it's like, your influencer failed to meet FTC rate. You didn't make sure that he crossed his T's and dotted his I's before that went public. So that's also like when brands get the draft for review before it goes live, part of what they should be checking is this called out? And what the FTC is always going to go back to, their terminology is clear and conspicuous. Okay. Basically, don't get cute. Don't try to be like, instead of saying ad, instead of saying sponsor, being like, hashtag my friend Samsung.
Or this video is powered by. It's like,
yeah.
No,
I mean, I feel like
powered by.
If you're trying to get got, the way is start getting cute with shit and see how that works out.
Exactly.
Fuck around and find out with the FTC.
Yeah, right. So it's like they want you to say it verbally and then show it, like display it with text on screen, right? Like those two things.
Yeah,
seem
that's
to always
their
be
ideal.
consistent.
And they'll be the first ones to say it's like it's hard across multiple platforms, but they're like, the one thing that they have said is, it needs to be visible on a phone screen. So if you can read it on, your 40-inch desktop monitor, but on your phone it's like this tiny little thing, like they don't consider that clear and conspicuous.
Sure, that makes sense.
So that's another thing. I think like a lot of creators, it's kind of scary. Now the reality is the FTC going to come kick down your door because you did something with the brand and art? Like, no, I think that's going to be much more like the big brands that are doing stuff with maybe like celebrities or like the influencers, creators that get to that level where they're almost more mainstream.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Random question for you, because I get it from everybody: creator, key opinion leader, influencer. Do any of those offend you? How do you refer to yourself?
I refer to myself as just like a tech creator. Mm-hmm. Influencer has such a crappy connotation, a negative connotation. I think it's also maybe just because I live in Los Angeles, where it's like influencer city, and like I'll go to like a museum or something, and if there's like a nice wall backdrop, like there's guaranteed some girl or even a guy that's just like taking a selfie, and it's just like you just see it all the time. Yeah. And they will identify themselves as influencers, and it's like when I see when that's the environment that I'm around all constantly, like I don't identify with that at all. Hey, big shout out to Thermaltake for hooking it up at CES 2024. So they dropped some seriously cool cases at their booth, and guess what? They teamed up with Asus to birth the Series 330, a mid-tower beauty that's all about those cable-free vibes with Asus's BTF motherboards that put all the connectors and headers on the backside. Clean look? Check. It supports up to 7 120mm fans and a 360 radiator at the front. Oh, and the case on display, you ask? Rocking that awesome hydrangea blue to celebrate Thermaltake's 25th birthday bash. Black and snow white versions are hitting shelves on January 10th for $109.99 USD. And the hydrangea blue option drops on January 4th, same price. Now let's talk about the CTE E600MX, a real head turner. Dual chamber mid-tower with edge-to-edge glass panels for the ultimate build peep show. You can even swap the front panel with an included mesh panel for more airflow. How cool is that? Plus the whole 90-degree rotated motherboard and a floating like a boss vertical GPU thanks to a handy mounting bracket and PCIe 4.0 cable, which are both included. Launching on January 20th in black, snow white, and hydrangea blue for $179.99. Not bad at all for all the cool stuff it brings to the table. But wait, there's more. The Tower 300, a micro ATX marvel with an octagonal shape. It's like Loot Crate, Spaceship, endless nerdy possibilities with tons of modding potential. And it's not just for show. Removable toolless glass panels and a hinged fan bracket make access to components and cables a breeze. And if that's not rad already, you've got the option to set it up on an angled stand for a one-of-a-kind perspective on your build. Plus, there's a ventilated panel cleverly concealing all the I/O ports, giving it that ultra-clean aesthetic. Available for $149.99 in custom colors. Black and snow white are out now. Turquoise and blue on the 14th, and green and yellow dropping on February 4th. Major props to Thermaltake for making these CES 2024 chats happen. Check out their latest gear with the link in the description. Huge shout out to MSI for hooking it up at CES 2024 and making these interviews possible. Now brace yourselves for the tech magic. MSI just unveiled their MEG 321 URX QD OLED display, a 32-inch OLED 4K monitor that's got a wild 240Hz refresh rate and a crazy fast 0.03 millisecond response time. And get this, it's not just any monitor, it's powered by AI. Right now, the AI is all about giving League of Legends players an edge, but more games are in the pipeline. Check this out. There's a slick LED bar on the bottom that syncs with the character's health bar, keeping crucial info in your peripheral vision while you crush it in battle. Then there's AI SkySight, predicting where off-screen enemies might pop up and slapping a red skull icon on screen to show you where they're coming from. It's like tactical ESP. And the best part? No bans here, because all the AI magic happens on the monitor, not your PC. So go ahead, enjoy that sweet victory, you cheating son of a What's really neat is MSI is exploring ways to leverage AI in other games so users can teach their monitors to elevate their gameplay even further. But wait, there's more. MSI dropped a 49-inch QD OLED 2K display with a mind-blowing 5120 by 1440 resolution. Hits up to 144 Hz, and yep, it's packing the same AI superpowers as the other monitor. Both of them are also rocking OLED Care 2.0 for burn-in prevention, dimming desktop icons and other static stuff on your screen. Hear that noise? No, you don't, because this monitor is silent. This baby is fanless, using a graphene film to conduct heat like a champ before exhausting it passively out of its ventilated back panel. Want to dive deeper into all the MSI awesomeness? Hit up the link in the video description.
Dude, I was going to ask you, actually. I don't know how much you could speak on this, but from your time at Fractal Design when you were working with cases, just out of curiosity, like, how long does it take? I've always wondered, like, how long does it take to make a case from, like, the moment someone, like, thinks of an idea for a case to when it's on a retail shelf?
Based on YouTube comments, about 7 minutes.
Right.
The reality is, it can vary. I would say a standard estimate is probably about 2 years.
Wow.
Because
Really?
what you've got to do, and again, I'm not an engineer.
Yeah.
We had some amazing engineers at Fractal that, like, that's what you don't get. Is, like, those guys love that stuff, and you never see them on camera because they nerd the hell out, and they're like, dude, that's under NDA. Shut up. Right. But it's like they live and breathe this stuff. So it's like my understanding of the process, because I've been involved in multiple parts and seen the delays in multiple parts, is like, you're going to design it. You have to come with, like, design ethos. What do you want it to look like? What do you want it to do? You've got to, like, CAD it up, and then you're going to go through a series of samples. And, like, the first sample might be like this, basically kludged together prototype, hand tooled type of thing.
Right.
And there's a lot of stuff that CAD works for, and there's stuff where it doesn't, in the sense that, like, oh, this motherboard fits in here with 2 millimeters of clearance. Well, maybe, like, in the real world with a heat sink on or whatever, like, you have to go in an angle to install it, and now at that angle that doesn't clear or that rubs. And it's like there's some stuff you find with the physical product, and then you get to what you call, like, kind of like the golden sample, and that's kind of like with you, like, the final draft of a video. Like, okay, if we sign off on this, we're going to production. And dude, there can be so many different reasons for production delays. It can be that there's a problem with the tooling, and the tooling is the most expensive part, from my recollection, is where it's like that's basically what makes that case. The tooling is like, if somebody stole that from you, they could go make your cases. And it's negotiations with the factory, and then there's forecasting, and then, like, one of the problems that we and other manufacturers had is, like, okay, we got this all designed, the white on the plastic doesn't match the white on the metal because you're painting two different materials or finishes in two different materials. You know, and it's like you've seen like, oh, you know, make white cases and black cases. Black is black. White is, oh, is it a warm white? Is it a cool white? Is it a neutral white? And that's why your white GPU might look different than the white case and different than the white cooler.
Sure.
So I would say in general about 2 years.
Okay.
And it gets really difficult too, like when people are like, oh, make multiple colors. It's like, okay, again, back to my same argument. It's like, you should make red. Okay. Well, you're saying Ferrari red. They're saying like, cherry red. And it's like whatever comes out is evidently not the version of red that you wanted. And then you go to someone like Newegg or Amazon, you have to forecast and you have to say like, okay, this is coming in. They're going to want to buy some, right? They're not going to be like, oh yeah, send 55 containers over here. Because they're going to get them in, see how they perform, and then they're going to reorder based on that.
Gotcha.
So anytime you're going into a scenario like that, that buyer's not going to be like, yeah, send me a case of each color. Like, we have 7 versions of this case.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, we're going to take 50 of those, 100. Like, black will take 200 because we know those will sell a ton. White will take 100.
Sure.
And then they're going to see how those sell over the first few weeks.
I see.
And then, say, oh, no one's wanting the blue.
Yeah.
They're not going to reorder the blue because they're going to get their run rates out and figure.
Exactly.
I went way too far off track on that.
No, that was actually very interesting.
Yeah,
I've always kind of wondered about all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
What's the average margin, like the profit margin on a case? Like, let's say $100 case. How much of that is actual profit for a case manufacturer?
Again, it depends.
Yeah.
Hardware in general is not very profitable.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people like, oh, dude, just, drop the price on this. You're probably making X, Y, Z. It's like, I would say most hardware is probably going to be like maybe 10%.
Damn, really?
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you're going through like a sales partner, like again, a Newegg and Amazon or whatever, it's like they have to make profit. You can try and sell direct. That has its own challenges, right? Because then you have to have order fulfillment. And there's a lot of people right now, it's like, I could buy direct from you, but I'm going to add this to my cart on Amazon. It's easier. So it's like, generally the hardware industry runs on razor thin margins. And that's why you can't just like, oh, we'll discount it by this much. Another thing I would get a lot was like, why don't you put a fill in the blank, whatever latest, front panel standard was just ratified, like, say Thunderbolt 15.9. The second that gets announced, you start getting comments, hey, make that a front panel connector. Like, okay, dude, well, like when USB 3.0 first came out, like just like the internal plugs for that would be something like 10 times the cost of standard USB. So it's like, and then you look at the adoption rate. Now, USB 3.0 and 2.0, not much of a difference. USB 3.0 and C, those are different form factors. So I think we'd launched a case at the time where we sold the USB-C front panel as like an upgrade. And we got all like, oh, you're selling DLC for cases. It's like, no, if you look at it, even if you have a USB-C device or two, how many standard legacy USB devices do you have? A shit ton more, right? And it's like, if you're looking at the total addressable market, the number of people out there, the number of people that need that USB-C front panel, maybe 5% of the market, maybe.
At that time.
Yeah, at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, so do we include this? Because if we include it, we're going to have to charge you for it. We can't just eat it because that's how you go out of business. It's like, so do we tax everybody for the wants of 5%, or do we say, hey, if you're bleeding edge early adopter, it's like if you want it that bad, pay the extra $10. That way the guys who don't give a crap, the girls who don't give a crap, aren't subsidizing this for you. Like they're not getting financially penalized. If they get a new phone in the future or whatever, they can go buy the additional plug.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's kind of that thing, like everything has a cost. Like the number of bends and cuts have a cost. Like each step in the assembly line is going to cost you. And we'll get stuff like, why don't you put a cutout here? It's like, okay, well, when this thing's being made, it's like flat, press, form. It's like, well, if we did the cutout first, when you go to fold it, it's lost structural integrity. It would just crumple. Well, then once you fold it, now you can't get in there to cut it because now maybe there's an angle. It's like, you're not going to take everyone off the assembly line and laser cut a notch in there.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like you have to plan all that stuff in when you're designing the case.
What's like the most costly part of a case? Is it like the glass panels? Is it like the I/O, like the front
probably
panel?
Again, don't quote me. It's probably going to be like I/O is going to be up there because I mean,
RGB, like any kind of RGB embedded?
Yeah, that would add to it, basically, any of your electrical stuff, because that's also a cost in the sense that's something that can go wrong.
Yeah,
right. That they could have like a replacement cost
Right,
to
exactly.
it. Metal can be a big cost. There can be times where the factory can change something after you've specified it because they want to save a little bit of money, and they know it's like, okay, well, we can maybe get a little bit thinner metal for like mesh or something like that, not tell the brand that we're building it for, and we save 5 cents a unit that goes out, and that adds up. And we go back to these razor thin margins, and it's like, and you don't find out until maybe there's an issue. Like, no, we spec this thickness of metal because if it goes below that, it might start to bend and warp. And maybe, this is all hypothetical, you don't find out until you start getting RMAs from people, and you're like, that's weird. Yeah. And I get another one, that's weird. Okay, why have we had 10 of these? Yeah. You go back and investigate, and it's like, oh, they did a bomb change, which is bill of materials. And it's, so there's all these things you're constantly on the lookout for. And that's where I think, honestly, any brand can screw up. Any manufacturer can screw up. Or bad shit can happen. It's how do they respond to it? How do they deal with it?
Exactly.
How do they make it right? And that's whether you're going to come back later or not. You can scam anybody once, but it's like if you stand behind your product, it's a whole trust thing, and they're willing to come back and say, hey, you treated me right the last time.
That's really interesting, actually. Do you think like a small company has an easier time developing a case than a larger company, just because it's like less hoops to jump through, or like they can turn it around quicker since there's not like not a chain of command? Or do you think like who would have the advantage?
I think maybe in the initial stages they'd be quicker, but I think when it comes to actual production, it'd be slower.
Okay.
Because you're not going to have the purchasing power of a larger company.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, like in your scenario, it's like you might have one engineer or
Right.
two product developers. Okay, well, if you had 5, maybe the 5th guy's going to find a problem on that the other 4 didn't see, or see a different angle or a different solution. And a lot of this, at least in my experience, is you try to regiment it. There's a process flow, and like, you have your smart sheets and your project tracking, and it's kind of like there's some handoffs like, okay, this is being developed, this is being designed. Yeah. And when it gets to a certain stage, now we're going to bring in marketing because we think it's going to be done around this time. And it's probably we're going to target a launch time of around here.
Sure.
Marketing needs to start doing their stuff, getting, whether that's the reviewers guides and who we're going to reach out to, what's our marketing plan for this, competitive analysis and all that stuff. That's already been done before the product was ever designed. Like, hey, if we make this, we have to guess it's going to cost us about this much. Are we going to be profitable if we go against this? Who are our other competitors in the industry?
Right.
But when you're doing that with like a 2-year time frame, some of that's just magic 8-ball type of shit.
Exactly.
Right. And it's not uncommon. Like if you saw at CES this year, like everyone, modular seems to be the theme. And it's like, it's not so much everybody copies each other, but there's going to be some of that. It's like more of that is just listening to the audience. It's like, oh, hey, people really responded to this. Right. Okay, well, that looks like that's a feature we need to have. Because on the flip side, if we don't, the next time it goes off to Gamers Nexus or whoever, they're going to be like, I can't believe this brand is still not doing this when everybody else is. Right. And if that brand does that, it's like, oh, you're copying everybody else. Bro, what am I supposed to do here?
Exactly.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the consumer votes with their wallet.
Right.
And that's what's going to lead product development.
Makes sense. What do you hope for with the future of like PC cases? Like, is there anything that like you think it's just inherently missing, or that like one day you hope like a certain feature or a certain type of quality will come around for it?
Yes, and if any brand would like to know, you can email me and invoice you for that. I think that what you're going to see more than just straight innovation, because innovation's kind of like a buzzword, right? I mean, it's a metal box that holds computer parts, and it's like, this has high airflow. Okay, so holes. I mean, like if we really dumb this down, that's what it is. That is greatly oversimplifying it, because there's a lot that goes into it. Like you should see the design that goes into just fans. I mean, the trip edge of the blade and the cavitation and the pitch and the angle and the trade-off for this and that, and noise normalized performance and things. Yeah, and it's like, and then you realize, okay, this is for like a $23 fan.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think it's like, oh, it's the Halo stuff. It's like, okay, well, I mean, does NVIDIA sell more 4090s or more 4060s?
Right.
And that's like the 4090 sells the 4060, just like the Corvette sells the Camaro. Well, not anymore, since we're not making the Camaro anymore.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it is, it's going to be like, what does the audience want? And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize is how driven that is. It's like, we'd always get this shit about, RGB unicorn puke, blah, blah, blah. It's like, the reason we show it rainbow is because in a still photo you can tell that's RGB. If we just showed it with one single color, it's like, oh, you don't make it RGB. It is. We're just showing it white in this picture.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like,
that is true. You never know.
Yeah, it's like we're not doing this to say leave it in rainbow puke all the time.
Right, exactly.
And again, you can say it's bullshit, but it's like there's a reason why everything is RGB. It's because people buy it.
Yeah.
And you're not really buying it for the rainbow puke. You're buying it so you can color match everything.
Exactly.
Or at least try to with
Right.
software.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's what you're seeing now. Screens are popping up in fans.
Screens are everywhere, dude.
And it's like on the one side, it's like, that's stupid. Why do I need that? But it's like you can also have the use case of like, okay, like the Leanne Lee's like, this one has this temperature monitor and this one has that. And it's like I saw Der Bauer did like really good video on showing kind of like, yo, here's where this would make sense.
Yeah.
Here's the cool things you can do with this. It's like, or you can put cat gifs on it.
Yeah, exactly.
And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because it's what the consumer wants. Because if we
Right.
really look at this, no one needs a 4090. No one needs, 4K OLED, blah, blah, blah. This is stuff that we want. And it's like, and if you want it, it's just like your car, man. It's like, I don't have to respect the way you did your car. I wouldn't choose to do that, but that's yours and you made it yours. So, more power to you. You're not
Right,
hurting
exactly.
anybody. So
Yeah.
I think the modularity is definitely something that's coming in, something that I thought would maybe be around a little bit sooner. But there's production hurdles to that. And then there's also forecasting. Because, if you're going to add a bunch of components for a case, go back to the Newegg argument. Hey, we need you to stock this new case plus these 7 other additional variable parts that come with it. And they're like,
Right.
Are you kidding, bro?
That's insane.
So, yeah, and that's a risk for a brand because you're going to make 5 of those attachments or different panels, and then the same amount of R&D goes into that, same amount of cost, and then you're going to find out 2 months after that there's 1 or 2 of those that just don't sell. Yeah. And it's like double down on the other ones. So I think it's modularity, flexibility. It's hard to look at case trends because we've gone into like the separate chamber, keep the PSU separated, then wide open, and then magnetic dust filters because everybody hates dust, but then open frame cases where that's all it is dust.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
So it's kind of
Yeah.
it's this moving target.
Definitely. I have a feeling screens are going to be a big thing. I mean, they already kind of are.
Yeah.
I just feel like every major AIO now has like an LCD on it, and then like even like cases just like the height. Really, really good, like the Y70 Touch.
Yeah.
It's just got a huge screen on it. And then like.
Well, I think the
just
key is
more
like
screens.
proper implementation. Like that thing looks badass in
It
person.
It does.
And it's well done. It doesn't seem like it was just tacked on.
For sure.
And you can definitely see the ones where it's like, we need to have LCD. We have LCD at home type
Right,
of
right.
solution shows up. And I think that's like the intelligent implementation of it is where people are going to knock it out. Like maybe your screen is not as good, but if it's done in a smart way,
Right.
that makes sense. People will take that.
I have a feeling that all like the like all the BTF stuff with all the connectors from behind the motherboard, I feel like that's going to open up a lot more possibilities of where you can put a screen in a case.
Yeah.
Because now it's like you have all that room to the right of the motherboard tray for just like a massive tablet basically.
Yeah,
if you
it's
want.
almost like your spec wall or like your
Right.
dashboard for
Yeah, for
monitoring
sure.
everything. And I think that, a lot of it comes down to standards. Like I know, my buddy Wallace at Main Gear, they're doing kind of like their version of that. And they were doing that way back in the day.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's kind of like laptops, right? Like everyone's trying to make, they were trying to do like basically the ATX, I think it was called like CBB, was it compliant building blocks or something where it's like where they're trying to make modular laptops back in the day. Because the problem is like every laptop, all the screens are different. There's no real common
standard
parts and stuff. And I think like Framework's trying to do that. But
right, exactly.
that's what makes it difficult because like no one wants to make 87 iterations of something.
True.
You want to make like some sort of common platform that everybody can build off of. I mean, look at RGB. Do we have a unified RGB controller? There's definitely people that try, but it's like, it's difficult because you're getting a bunch of people to agree on something.
Exactly.
I have a question for you.
What's up?
So from back in the day when we used to do like crazy shit on YouTube, is there something that you wish was still around, like maybe like you'd want to do, but you feel like now like that just wouldn't fly either because you get canceled or because the audience wouldn't be receptive to it, like a part of that era that you miss?
It's a good question. I do think like things have changed so much in just like the last 10 years. In the last 5 years, just like, there's like woke culture. You have to be careful about what you say.
You're that guy Lyle, right?
That's where I was going. But you know what? I did kind of have Lyle in a video recently. Not his face, but his voice and his words. And his words are pretty much that's as bad as it gets. It's more offensive than his face.
Yes.
Well,
But
that's arguable.
Yeah.
But and there was no real backlash. I was kind of surprised. Everyone was like very happy to see him back, and I think, but he is a very polarizing character, and or polarizing guy because he is my actual twin brother.
Yes.
I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty. I don't want to say ballsy, maybe just stupid. That I'll just
Reckless.
if I'm really feeling like that creative need, where I'm just like, dude, I'm scratching a creative itch, and it might be taken the wrong way, or someone might get offended by it, but I'm doing it not to offend anyone. I'm just doing it because it's firing me up. It's like this is what's motivating me. This is like the type of video that I'm excited about. Right. This allows me to maybe like write some jokes, like do some joke writing and kind of flex my brain that way. And more often than not, people have been very receptive to things like Lyle and like, I don't know, some of the more like edgy kind of content or jokes that I'll make. And I think you kind of, those are your core subscribers. They kind of expect that from you if you're a certain way. And I think you just kind of have to own it, lean into it. But you sort of also have to know where to draw the line. I definitely strike some things from the record before I was like, I'm not going to, like, I'm editing it. I'm like, I'm cutting that out. So I do definitely censor myself to a degree because, like, I'm not a comedian. I'm a YouTuber, and this is my livelihood. But over the years, I think I've gotten a pretty good grasp on what will fly and what should not.
Well, and personally, I feel like I try to look at the context of what was said. Like, I feel like someone could say something really edgy and out there, but if it's clear they're joking with no harm intended, and I know that's a whole gray area whether harm was intended, to me that might be less offensive than someone who said maybe something that was in written text less offensive but had more malice behind it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know that I was coordinating with you on a brand deal one time, and this rather large brand was basically came back. So we found a Lyle character on the channel.
Yeah.
And
I remember that.
Effectively, it was like, we need to make sure that character is not going to make an appearance. And I believe they were kind of trying to mansplain to me about how that could be offensive to people of like an Asian persuasion.
It's like,
and I'm like,
he's Asian.
And I'm like, do you not really
Do you
know
not
what
understand?
ethnicity Kyle is? And not to say just because you're not offended that nobody would be or nobody would have a
of
right to.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, okay. But
it's also like, I'm not, the intention, the context behind it. It's like, Lyle is funny because he's so ridiculous.
I mean, it's so
like,
over the top.
It's so absurd.
Yeah.
It's laughing at the stereotype.
Yeah. The
more
humor
than,
is in the over-exaggeration.
It's satirical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's satire. So, but people don't get that. Or if they do get that, they still think, well, it could still be misinterpreted. Well, it's like, I can't control how someone interprets.
Do you have family members that have been offended by Lyle?
No. In fact, they all think he's hilarious. I've had family friends who are Asian, friends who are Asian. They're like, dude, we appreciate you. We appreciate the Lyle characters. Like, an Asian lady one time just actually told me that. She's like, I really appreciate like what you're doing with Lyle. I think it's really he's been a positive impact on like the Asian community and stuff. I was like, what? Okay, cool. Like that's awesome.
Why is he always so grumpy? Why does he always look mad all the time?
I don't know. I'm going to have to dig into his origin story at some point.
Dude,
an origin
Lyle
story.
going through therapy. That's serious.
Yeah, dude.
That'd be so...
And the therapist needs a therapist afterwards. Just jumps
like,
out the window.
Halfway through the session, doesn't want to pay for it or something like that. Yeah.
Penny pinching.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, that was a great question. I know we've been running for a while, and
I need to shut up. Yeah.
well, I just don't want your stomach to eat itself. Yeah, so we should get some lunch.
Yeah, definitely sounds cool. Well,
thank you very much for coming on here, dude. I always appreciate picking your brain and getting a chance to talk with you.
Definitely, yeah. I enjoyed it, and I apologize to the audience for having to look at me and hear my scratchy voice.
Well, they usually watch me, so this is probably not too far off from that.
Yeah, they're already aiming at the bottom.
Exactly.
When you aim down, you're going to hit the floor.
Yeah,
so,
dude. Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you, bro.